Today we're bringing you a story about place, myth, people, history, and inaccuracy. Beans is so excited about this one. This place is as intrinsic to Hollywood history as any film studio, and it's a place traveled by millions every day as they cross to and from the San Fernando Valley. We're talking about the Cahuenga Pass. And in this episode, Andrea Anthony Moore and I head out on foot to Cahuenga because of the story Karina Wilson shared in episode 20, Linda Goodman and the Hollywood Hills Penis Mystery. See, in 1970, a man claiming to be an astral traveler visited astrologer Linda Goodman in her hotel room at the Roosevelt Hotel and claimed that there was an ancient Egyptian burial ground in the hill beneath the Great Hollywood Cross. And in that burial chamber is alleged to be the god Osiris's penis. Is there an ancient Egyptian burial chamber inside that hill? Armed with tarot cards and a Ouija board, we head there to find out. Describe your outfit.
So I have some really cool, like Kim Possible green cargo pants. They are for adventuring and trekking. I have my special outdoor shoes that I bought for when I went to Aotearoa for hiking. And I'm wearing my really cool, what is this, cow pattern? I think so. Like a cow pattern fleece pullover. And then sunglasses that match Carly's. And a big hat because the sun is powerful out here. And I look cool. Well, so far we're off to a strong start with the no access sign, no clear markings, and we're next to the freeway. But if we get lost, someone will see us, which is good. So yeah, excited for this adventure. And there's a bus going by as well, full of people to watch us do our mission. Gonna be great, gonna be fun.
Okay, so we just spent, how long did it take us to climb up that hill?
About 20 minutes, not long, just extremely up. Kind of a trail. At times the trail was more of a suggestion. A little dusty, but it's nice. It has rained here recently, so it's really green up here. Actually, it's very beautiful. Unusual for LA. Yeah, I would say a tad bit treacherous, but not too bad overall.
There's no real trailhead. It's like a trail that has been made by people just kind of walking up the hill. When we got up to the peak, there was a coyote, and so that was a nice thing to see. Then he kind of like checked out. He's like, later dudes, I'm going up this trail here. What was really interesting though, as we were climbing, was that we came across some stairs that kind of went to nowhere. The stairs looked really old, and it was like, who put them in there? Why are they just like stairs on the side of the hill that don't really start anywhere and don't really go anywhere?
Just some stairs.
Yeah, and they're really steep, and there was like a lot of them. I wanted to say they're like 30 stairs.
It seems like at one point this was more designed for people to actually come up here, and then they gave up and said, no, we'll just leave these 30 stairs floating in the middle. Don't worry about those.
But you can see all of LA, Hollywood, that's a Century City here. And the vibe is, my heart is still pounding from the climb up, so I'm really not feeling any particular vibe. But we do have the Ouija board here, so we're gonna do a little Ouija board action. When I initially said we're going to bring a Ouija board, you were, Andrea, very scared. Yeah. Can you tell us why?
So here's the thing about Ouija boards, is that they're haunted. So when I was like 12, me and my friends had a sleepover, very normal girly activities, whatever. We had just a plain old, what is this? Oh, this is a different brand. We had like the Hasbro Ouija board, like you think the least threatening version of the Ouija boards.
I feel like this one is, it's Hasbro.
Okay, yeah, so we played it, whatever. I don't even remember if like anything happened. I mean, I probably like, oh, it moved, like nothing really happened. But then I was kind of freaked out by it. I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school my whole life, the devil, whatever. So I was like, I don't really want this. And where I lived at the time, as a kid, I lived in this condo with my grandparents and my mom. And so our trash can was down like 3 flights of stairs to get down to like where the trash bin is. And then, you take the trash bin out on the middle of the week, whatever. So it's like Monday, another trash man is coming Wednesday. I put it in the trash bin, down 3 flights of stairs, think nothing of it. The next day, I'm walking back up to my room, and it falls out of like this little like shelf thing we had on one of the landings outside my room in front of me as I'm walking up the stairs. I had put it in the trash bin, and like, it's not that my family's humorless. I'm not saying that, but they are not pranksters. Like, no, my grandfather was a military man. My grandmother was an immigrant, like from South America. Like, my mom was working all the time. Like, that was nobody's vibe to pull that prank on me. Like, that, for 100% for sure, that thing grew wings and flew out of the trash can and came back to me and was like, play me again. So I was like, no, I don't think so. I put it back in the trash can again. So now it's Tuesday. I put it back in the trash bin. Same thing happens again the next day. I'm walking up the stairs. It falls out of this like little like holding place that nobody put it in front of my feet. I'm like, play with me. So finally, I put it in the trash bin on trash pickup day, and then it left and didn't come back. But like, I had to put distance between me and it to keep it away from me. And that's the last time I touched a Ouija board, and I was 12. If something follows me home, I'm going to be so mad at you. You have no idea.
How are you feeling as we're about to do the Ouija board and ask?
I'm literally going to do a prayer, and I don't pray anymore, but I'm going to just in case. You never know. Okay.
Okay, she just did that like cross thing that Catholics do, and then she's silently praying.
Yeah, whatever's out there, please do not come with me. I am trying to talk to you now, but you gotta stay here. This is your house. I am not your house. I thank you. Do you know the proper way to like open and close it? Closing is really important, so I do just want to get that figured out real quick.
Tell us what it says.
Okay, so pick a quiet place, blah, blah, blah. Don't use it in a graveyard. Cool. Oh, we have to cleanse the space of negative energy. Where's your cleansing oil?
I think I might have left the protection oil at home. So I got luck oil.
Swear to God, we are going to die. All right, well, we'll have to use luck oil, I guess. Just a couple, maybe sprinkle a little bit. I clear this space of all negativity. I clear the space of the energy of people or things that have no purpose in this area. I ask that this clearing be gentle and that all of energy be returned to its source. Let nothing but good energy surround me. Let nothing but good intentions fill me. Let my mind and body be calm and at peace. Take a bath? Jesus. All right. We welcome friendly, positive spirits to talk to us. This is a pure, positive space.
Some luck oil.
Thank you. I will. Okay, it says we have to be gentle when we talk to them. And then when we're done, we have to say goodbye. Super important. We have to say goodbye and then flip the pointer over. And then we'll do a little cleansing prayer at the end, okay? But we should be good to start now.
This hill was called the Place of the Hill. There used to be a streetcar that went up the middle of Cahuenga Pass. Before there was a highway here, people would hop on a trolley and take a trolley that would go all the way to Canoga Park. That was when public transportation was doing good in LA. Yeah, different time. And the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit talks about this quite good. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do a little Ouija board, and Oringa says look through the window on the planchette to see if you can see any spirits. Okay. Yeah, no. Okay. We're gonna place our two little fingers on it, and we're gonna ask it a question. Okay, are there any spirits, very lightly, are there any spirits who would like to talk to us today? Like, put your fingers on the thingy. Touch it. You're moving it.
I'm not moving it!
Are there any spirits who would like to talk to us today?
How to keep my hands? I don't have the arm strength to keep my hands like that.
How did we do this as kids? My arms are already tired.
Exactly. Look, I'm not doing that. Okay, so the planchette is moving, and we are not moving it, and that sucks, because that means someone is talking to us. And please, but it is saying, oh, A. You got an A. Oh, P. A, P.
My back hurts.
Yeah, we're too old for this. We got APO. Is that anybody? It could be somebody's name.
I gotta itch my back. I gotta stretch.
Sorry, APO. Apo. All right. So,
is there an Egyptian burial chamber here in this hill? It's moving
down toward the numbers, which is strange. How many are there? P. You tell us your name again. I'll be like, yeah, I know. Q.
AP.
Well, this is a new question. So now we're at PQ. Mysterious answer. B.
APQB. If you haven't guessed already, this visit to Cahuenga Pass isn't actually resulting in finding the truth about the Egyptian burial chamber, though we do give it a good shot. It's an adventure, a chance to experience this space. And the excursion provides some tangible perspectives as I return to my laptop to find out more about the history of this place and do what this podcast does, which is discover the Hollywood stories that excite our imagination. In doing this research, I came across an 1887 spread in the August 14th edition of the San Francisco Daily Examiner, and it's called Cahuenga Vista, the lovely settlement in the home of the old Cahuengas, spelled Kahwingas, which is just one of the many variations on the spellings of the original indigenous name, which was something like Cahuenga. This article, it's something, and I think I should read it for you. Long ago, before the pilot of the locomotive poked its nose into that famed locality, and when the only boom was the voice of the breaker as it suicided on the sandy beach, there lived in the southern part of California an Indian tribe called Cahuengas. It is known that this tribe held unchallenged sway over the country where they lived, not that other tribes did not desire the land to possess it, for it was a goodly land, but that their valor, tested in many a bloody field, was at once the warning and the barrier against trespassers. The language of the Cahuengas is as dead as their late lamented sole survivor. But from the warlike character of the tribe, the philologic guesser has inferred that the word means lion-hearted. However, that matters little now. The sole relic of this valiant people is its name, which has descended to the town of Cahuenga, pronounced Cahuenga, with the accent on the wing. And this town lies at a point a little more than 1/3 of the way from Los Angeles to Santa Monica. The early explorers are responsible for the name having first bestowed upon it the Cahuenga Pass, which clears the coast range and forms a natural highway into the San Fernando Valley. Cahuenga Pass, they called it. So there's a lot happening in this article. If you've listened to this podcast's previous episodes, you know that the Tongva who lived here originally were not a violent, warlike people. And you know that the name Cahuenga doesn't mean lion-hearted. It means place of the hill. And a lot of these place names that still remain from the Tongva language are describing the place. So this article was published during the 1887 land boom, when a rate war between the two railroads resulted in super low prices that enticed people to come out to Los Angeles. So think about it. Just 40 years prior, the Donner Party had to trek across the continent in covered wagons, and if you don't know, they got stuck in a snowstorm and had to resort to cannibalism. Now, here in the 1880s, folks can just hop on a train for around $40 and get to Los Angeles in a matter of days. Newcomers, especially wealthy robber barons who made their fortunes exploiting workers on the East Coast, made their retirement homes out here. And real estate developers at the time pitched Cahuenga as a potential site for a new town. And as you can see, part of the tactic that they're using in their advertising is mythology, which is such a Hollywood thing. The story that they're telling is an unmistakably white supremacist mythology, which you can't deny is ingrained in the very foundation of the film industry. Whether you're talking about Birth of a Nation, the Hays Code that says, two people of different races can't be seen on screen kissing each other. The fact that the first major sound film was a white actor performing in blackface, or the enduring reality that non-white creatives continue to face insurmountable obstacles in getting their stories told or earning a living in media. Racism is the bedrock upon which the motion picture industry was built. And the indigenous people who lived here for thousands of years in Southern California are still here, of course. So that whole line about the sole survivor, like I said, if you'd like to hear more about the indigenous history of this region and what it was like leading a rebellion against the Spanish missionaries, check out episodes 9 and 10 of this podcast, and definitely learn about Toy Perina, the incredible indigenous woman who deserves a movie made about her life. So Cahuenga. Cahuenga does not mean lion-hearted. It means place of the hill. And the people of this region referred to themselves by the name of the village where they lived. Many of these village names are still here, like Cahuenga, Topanga, Azusa, and these names don't have anything to do with being fierce or warrior-like. Topanga, for instance, means where the mountain meets the sea. Cahuenga means old woman's place, and Azusa means skunk's place because there's a bunch of skunks that live there. But when you're a white colonizer taking other people's land, a really important strategy that you have to use is depicting the original inhabitants as warlike. Because if you put out a spread about how you're selling plots of land that have been taken from peaceful people who named their villages after old women and skunks, well, you kind of look like an asshole. And again, the Tongva weren't wiped out. They're still here. In 1769, there was approximately 5,000 Tongva people living in Southern California. In 2020, there were approximately 3,900 self-identified Tongva descendants. Do you feel any negative presence or any?
I don't feel any negative presence at all. It feels very, very peaceful up here, to be fair. But I think what I am picking up on a little bit of like, this is not a normal place to be. You know, like people don't just, I mean, people obviously come here. There's graffiti on the cross and whatnot and broken glass and shit. People come here, but it just sort of feels like not a normal place to hang out. You know what I mean? It's not bad. It's just like, oh, this is unusual. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's very hard. It's hard to get to. So it's not something that like you would see a lot of people here, and I'm sure like it doesn't get a lot of traffic up here. Yeah, you know, I always do feel weird seeing a cross just because I am not religious at all, and like I know it has like so much religious symbolism, and it always feels always a little oppressive whenever I see a cross. It's always like
one this big is really
yeah.
And I think for me, growing up Catholic, like there's a lot of comfort in ritual because Catholicism is so much about ritual compared to like an evangelical Christian church, right, or even a Baptist church.
How did you like deprogram from Catholicism?
I grew up Catholic, but Catholic in LA. It's very different than Catholic other parts of the world, right? And I feel like for me, it was always just something I did because I just did it. It wasn't something I carried super deep in my heart. And when I got to college, and I did go to Jesuit university, so I was still in Catholic school, but I was, I had to take world religions and Buddhism as my electives, and one of them was required. And I was like, there's other stuff out there. I don't have to believe in this. And I just stopped. I mean, I'm still weird about sex because of that, but
that's such like a common thing with religion. Like even if you like completely deprogram, like there's always these lingering
like weird like guilt stuff because they teach you. I mean, I was like a kindergartner and they taught us like, you're born with original sin and you have to spend your whole life making up for that. Like you learn that. I can still like close my eyes and see the text on the page in my religion textbook of learning about original sin. So like some of that stuff stays with you, but
that's a lot to put on a 5-year-old.
Lots to put on children. But at the same time, like it was fine. I still learned about evolution. I still learned about like normal stuff. So it wasn't. It could have been worse if I lived somewhere else. I'm very grateful I grew up here. Like a lot of my teachers at my Catholic school were gay. Even if they had to like not talk about it openly, we all knew. There were 2 teachers that were a couple, these 2 women that had matching purses. I wonder if I can see my high school from here actually. Where is West LA? Where's West LA from here? Where's the ocean?
So like the ocean's that way. Over there. So like those towers over there are like Century City. Okay. So like West LA, it's foggy over on that side. So I think probably on a clearer day we could see the ocean. The naturally occurring space between the Santa Monica Mountains was very useful to the Tongva people, and it was very useful for the Spanish. And so they took the Tongva village name, Cahuenga, and gave it the Spanish spelling. This pass became part of the 600-mile El Camino Real Trail, which connected California's 21 missions, which these missions, they were religious outposts backed by the full force of the Spanish military to colonize this territory and eventually settle the area as part of the Spanish Empire. This was a time of forced conversion and enslavement. The mission used full-on cult mind control tactics to convert the natives. And make no mistake about it, their whole reason for converting the natives was to use them as unpaid labor. They're like, God loves you when you surrender your land, work for free, and let us rape you and bear our children.
Okay, I think these are shuffled. Okay. What am I asking?
Is there an Egyptian burial chamber here?
Okay.
And I'll do that same.
Ha!
What does it say?
The hanged man upside down. That's probably
Hanged man is upright, is look at things from a different perspective. That's the advice. Hanged man reverse is you've already looked at this from lots of different perspectives.
Interesting.
So it's kind of leaning towards give it up and move on with your life.
Is that telling us that we should go back down the hill? That we should eat lunch? Reversed. You can't always be in control. You've been trying to maintain a firm grip on a situation that's really out of your hands, and the effort has left you feeling stressed and exasperated. Remember that you can't always force things to go the way you want them to. Sometimes letting things fall into place naturally leads to even better results than you could have imagined. Relax, go with the flow, and let the situation unfold as it will.
And you know, the hanged man is often associated with Odin, and he's the god who like hung himself upside down to kind of meditate in like a meditative sort of practice. So Biddy Tarot says the hanged man shows a man suspended from a T-shaped cross made of living wood. He is hanging upside down, viewing the world from a completely different perspective, and his facial expression is calm and serene, suggesting that he is in this hanging position by his own choice. He has a halo around his head, symbolizing new insight, awareness, and enlightenment. His right foot is bound to a tree, but his left foot remains free, bent at the knee, and tucked behind his right leg. His arms are bent with his hands held behind the man is wearing.
That's really
The
weird.
hanged man is the card of ultimate surrender.
Oh.
In a time and of martyrdom and sacrifice to the greater good.
It's interesting because it says he's hanging from a cross in the,
I know.
in the traditional picture, and here we are at a cross. That's pretty weird.
That's a pretty nice.
Yeah. That's strange.
And I really do think this episode is probably not going to be as much about finding
A penis.
a penis.
No penises to be found up here.
I think it'll be like whatever interesting conversations come out of this quest.
Yeah, of just being on the quest, being open. Yeah, and I think the conflagration of like we have this, this Christian symbol here of the cross, right? We're at an area that's sacred to the Tongva people. The name of it is still in their language, right? And then we have this attachment to, Egyptian lore. And then we also have the tie to the weird hippie movement of the 70s. Like there are so many things that are coming together to bring us here to this moment. Very strange.
Probably the most interesting thing about this hill isn't the per people aspect of it, but like there's some birds over there that are just like hanging out. Like I bet just the nature of it is very cool. I bet there's a lot of animals here. I bet if we hung out, like the coyote would come back. I could sacrifice a sweater. In my experience, if you give clothes to coyotes, they enjoy it. They they throw it up in the air and they pounce and look cute. After Mexico gained independence from Spain and California was part of Mexico, some wealthy landowners, white people, in Alta California petitioned the governor Manuel Victoria for democratic reforms. The governor called two of the men in this group traitors and called for their execution. The men then gathered a small army and captured the town of Los Angeles. The governor put together his own army, and the two armies met at Cahuenga Pass for the 1831 Battle of Cahuenga Pass. There was a whole thing. 2 people died. The governor had part of his face ripped off. He survived, but resigned as governor. There was then the Second Battle of Cahuenga Pass 14 years later. Folks were upset that Mexico kept selecting California governors who were not native-born Californians. Throughout 1844, there was a brewing revolt against the new governor, Manuel Micheltorena. I hope I pronounced that name right. I didn't look it up too hard. And this new governor, Governor Manuel Micheltorena, who had forcibly replaced the California-born Juan Bautista Alvarado, brought his own army, which was made up of former inmates and criminals, to California. And he didn't have enough food for his army, so these men would just go to people's homes and take whatever they wanted. Women, especially, were not safe from these people. The former governor, Juan Bautista Alvarado, organized an army. John Sutter, though, the guy behind Sutter's Mill, whose whole life was ruined by the gold rush, led Governor Micheltorena's troops to oppose them. And again, the troops meet at Cahuenga Pass. There's a battle. 1 horse and 1 mule are killed. Ultimately, those on Micheltorena's side united with the opposition to defeat their own governor, leader, because they're like, we don't like you. And California-born Pio Pico, who had African, Native, Spanish, and Italian ancestry, was reinstated as governor. So, lots of stories here. And beyond the legend about Osiris's penis, Cahuenga Pass is home to many stories, including a tale of a curse. So, Andrea, I'm going to tell you about the Cahuenga curse. And this story comes from beforeth101.com. So check out their story on their website. It begins in 1864. Mexico is at war with France, and a resistance against France is sort of crowdfunded with a bunch of resistance members, like throwing in their jewels and their coins and whatever they have that's valuable into a big ol' hoard of loot. And it's ultimately worth about $200,000. And so they take these 4 men, take that loot to San Francisco to buy a bunch of weapons in San Francisco. And so 4 men with this loot, like I said, head from Mexico to San Francisco to buy the weapons. But one of their guys dies mysteriously along the way. And the remaining 3 men are afraid that that man's death is due to some sort of French spies in California. I don't know what they're envisioning there, but they're scared. And they wrap up the loot in 6 separate buckskins and decide before they go into San Francisco, they're going to bury the treasure outside of San Francisco for safekeeping. When they return from San Francisco and exhume the parcels, all the parcels are gone. What happened to them? 2 of the men, as you can imagine, are like, you did it. No, you did it. And they immediately shoot each other.
As you do when you're upset.
And there's one guy who survives. His name is Captain Henry Malcolm. He skedaddles to Tombstone, Arizona, and he's murdered down there.
Well, he went to Tombstone. That was a mistake.
And fun fact, the murderer is captured by Wyatt Earp. But what really happened is that a Mexican shepherd watched the trio bury the buckskins. And then when they left, he just dug them up.
That's so smart. Why haven't I done that?
Well, I feel like also, if you're going to bury treasure, maybe look around to make...
I know. Check if someone's watching. He probably was being subtle, you know, like hiding behind a tree or something. But that's what I should be doing, is spending my time waiting to observe someone else burying treasure.
But also, okay, he's a shepherd, so he has a flock of sheep. So I'm assuming that the guys there who are burying the treasure are like, there's a huge flock of sheep nearby. Maybe there's a shepherd tending to them. We should probably maybe go to the place where there isn't a bunch of sheep.
There isn't sheep. They're like, oh, those sheep are harmless. Little did they know, the sheep had a human.
So the Mexican shepherd heads to Sonora with his fortune. Which I'm sure it takes a long time back then. Was he walking just with his sheep? Was he riding on horseback?
With the sheep running behind him?
Maybe he traded his sheep for a horse, or maybe he traded like here's a gold necklace. Give me a horse. So maybe it didn't take that long. But he gets the Cahuenga Pass. He stays at a hotel there. And there was a hotel there called the 8 Mile House that was there for like a really long time, all the way up until the 1920s when it got demolished. And that night he has a dream. And an angel comes to him in the dream saying that when he enters Los Angeles with the treasure, he will die. And at this point, I'm like, is this man sane?
Right.
Because he then spends a year figuring out what to do. And he has a lot of money. So I would be like, okay, I will go around Los Angeles.
I'll just go around.
If I believe in the vision.
Yeah.
But
it's maybe like a manifestation of his guilty conscience. And so he felt so guilty. He like couldn't make a decision. He was paralyzed with the stress of it all.
That could be paranoia.
Yeah.
So he heads to the foothills west of the pass where the Hollywood Bowl is, and he buries the buckskins in 6 different locations near an ash tree. He becomes very sick during this year of trying to figure out what to do. A man named Don Jesus Martinez takes him in, and on his deathbed, the shepherd tells him about the buckskins and the ash tree, but he dies before mentioning the part about the curse. And I'm wondering, well, then how do we know about the curse?
True. Right.
How do we know about the angel and the curse if the guy who knew
who was cursed
died? So I have questions about the legitimacy of this story.
Yeah.
But here we go. So Don Jesus and his stepson head out looking for this buried buckskin treasure. And as Don Jesus is climbing up the hill, as we did yesterday, Don Jesus has a heart attack like I felt like I was going to. And
it is quite uphill.
And dies. Seeing his stepfather die while climbing this hill, the stepson is like, nope, I am never looking for treasure ever again. 20 years later, in 1885, a shepherd's dog is digging around and uncovers one of the buckskins filled with treasure. The shepherd heads to the 6 Mile House Tavern. And by the way, if you're wondering, 8 Mile House Tavern, 6 Mile House Tavern, these are all named such because they're either 8 miles from Los Angeles or 6 miles from Los Angeles.
Wow. So clever. So creative.
Yeah. So the 6 Mile House Tavern is near the intersection of Sunset and Gower, and tells the proprietor there about finding this treasure. But he's like, oh, but keep it secret. So the shepherd then takes his fortune and heads to Spain. But when he reaches Barcelona, he leans too far over the railing of his ship as he's waving to his family and falls over.
Oh my God, dude. Like, come on. You made it so far.
So he falls over the railing. And no one ever finds his body or the jewels. Or did they? And they just were like, I'm going to keep it quiet.
And did they make up the curse to keep the jewels secret? Who knows?
Right, exactly. Almost 10 years later, in 1894, the stepson is no longer fearing the curse and plans with a guy named Major Horace Bell to excavate for the 5 remaining buckskins. And by the way, Horace Bell is a rancher and publisher, and you may be familiar with the name if you listen to episode 2 of our podcast, because he is responsible for perpetuating a lot of Southern California mythology, including the story about the Lake Elizabeth monster.
Of course.
So they're like, we're going to keep this on the down low. It's just like we're plowing a field. So they start plowing the area, not digging for anything, just plowing. But in September, the stepson is killed randomly by his brother-in-law in downtown on Boyle Avenue.
That's wild. A very Cain-enabled story there.
Yeah, right. And so we're up to 8 dead associated with the Cahuenga Pass treasure. In 1901, the proprietor of the 6 Mile House that was told about the treasure starts planning his own excavation, but he dies of cirrhosis of the liver. He owns a tavern, so that's not complete.
Right. That's not exactly a mystery of how we got here.
Then 40 years after that, in 1939, a mining engineer from San Francisco comes down with a crew of excavators looking for the treasure. He's digging. There's parts where he's reaching like various really hard things to get through. He reaches a boulder ultimately and can't go any further. He spends a lot of money. His hole fills in with water. He just waste a whole lot of time and money trying to search for it. And on January 26, 1940, he dies by suicide from inhaling car exhaust.
And he didn't find the treasure.
He didn't find the treasure.
Well,
so there we have it. We have 10 victims total. And the American Weekly chronicled all of this in a 1940 story called Strange Tragedies of the Hunt for the Hollywood Bull's Hidden Hoard.
Well, I am just really glad that you ended up not bringing the shovel you were planning, because I don't want any like curses to perceive us and be like, oh, they're looking for the treasure. Better kill them.
That's the rule. If you dig, you die.
If you dig, you die. And we did not. We came with, spirit tools, no physical tools. So
I think we're good.
Hopefully we're safe. If we're cursed, I'm going to be incredibly upset.
So a little history of Cahuenga Pass. From 1880 to 1910, the whole area from Cahuenga Pass to Baldwin Hills, which encompasses Hollywood, Century City, Beverly Hills, Mid-City, Koreatown, that was all referred to as Cahuenga Valley. And it was home to lemon groves and pea fields. The towns in Cahuenga Valley and the city of Los Angeles merged in 1910 to all become Los Angeles. And
gotta collect that power.
Yeah. Get stronger. And in 1911, the first trolley line crossed Cahuenga Pass, taking riders all the way to Canoga Park. And in 1914, Cecil B. DeMille, the great director, was renting a cabin there on Cahuenga Pass. And every day he would ride his horse to the studio with a revolver on his hip. And
what an image.
Yeah, I know, right? Can you imagine? And
also, I'm so upset that we couldn't take a trolley yesterday. Can you imagine how much more fun that would have been?
And it would have been so much easier.
So much easier and probably a lot cheaper.
Yeah. In 1920, a paved road was put in for the first time so cars could go on it. And by the 1940s, that road would become a freeway. And in the 1950s, the trolley line would be demolished to make way for more freeway lanes.
Yep.
And the last time the term Cahuenga Valley was used was in 1922. And that is the story of Cahuenga.
Yeah. I wish that we still had more of that infrastructure, but at least we still have our beloved Hill. So at least there's that.
I'm actually not surprised how it turned out, really. I kind of was expecting, we're going to come here, we're going to pull cards, we're going to do whatever, and it's going to end up reflecting back on us because we're coming to a place that's sacred for so many reasons and so many people. I don't think that's going to jump out at us, right? I think what it's going to give is going to give to us what we need because that's what it's here for. That's what it did for the Tongva people. That's what it did for Linda Goodman. She wanted it to be something interesting and fun, and it became that for her and everyone who followed that and wanted to explore. It gives what you need to get in that moment, and that is what I sort of expected, and that I'm happy to say it's what we got.
Yeah. If you were to live here back, in the 1600s before the colonizers came, and you came up to this hill with completely quiet all around, how would you feel?
I think this place would feel really I've made it somewhere where I can rest. I've made it somewhere that feels peaceful. I've made it to a point that is a place for me. It is really, I think, for anyone who enjoys hiking, it's not hard to find that outdoors, but I think for something that's in the middle of the city, on the freeway, it's still maintaining that sense of here's a place to rest. And I find that really interesting and really powerful.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking this hill feels like it would be a place to do ceremonies or have a theater. I mean, there's a theater down there, but this would be a place to tell stories around a campfire.
Why the theater is here?
Yeah, I mean, there's also the Hollywood Bowl down the hill, on the other side of the hill, and then there's the Ford Theater on the other side of the hill. This does feel like a place that is a place for telling stories and communing and having a ritual, because it is a little hill that gives you a view of the whole valley. You can see multiple directions.
Probably come back at summer solstice.
Yeah.
See what it gives us then.
Yeah. And that's it for this week's Haunted Hollywood Hour. If you enjoyed this show, please help others find the show by leaving a rating or a review. Give us a follow on Instagram at Haunted Hollywood Hour Podcast, all one word. If you'd like to contact us, send us an email at hauntedhollywoodhour@gmail.com. Until next time, bye!